My name is Mary Catherine Haroni, better known as Big Nose Kate. I've gone by many names in my lifetime. I have been a Fisher, an Elder, a Melvin, and a Cummings, and I've done many things. I have been a murderess, a wife and mother, a brothel worker, a dance hall girl. I was a madam and a hotel owner. But I'm probably best known as the longtime companion and lover of that handsome Southern gentleman, Dr. John Henry Holliday, the infamous dentist, gambler, and gunfighter. We were together for quite a while, be it off and on. You see, we both had bad tempers, and we both drank too much. Combined with his consumption and my tough, stubborn Hungarian temperament, it's a miracle we didn't kill each other. I was born in 1850, just outside of Budapest, Hungary, to prominent parents, where I enjoyed a normal, happy life with my family. When I was 12, we moved to Mexico. My father was appointed personal physician to the newly appointed Emperor of all Mexico, Ferdinand Maximilian. But just 3 years later, in 1865, the revolution drove us from the royal court when they executed Maximilian. So we immigrated to a little town north of Davenport, Iowa. Shortly thereafter, both of my parents died of illnesses, and we became orphans. Some of the neighbors took us in, but they used us as slave labor. Now, after an attack on my life in a barn by a farmer, I packed my meager belongings in my carpet bag and headed out to St. Louis. I boarded a steamboat as a stowaway, and I used the name of Fisher. That was a steamboat captain's name. But to make a long story short, when I arrived in St. Louis, I entered a convent school using the name of Fisher, and that was the steamboat captain's name. But that life wasn't for me. I soon met a young dentist by the name of Silas Melvin, who introduced me to Madame Blanche, the owner of a sporting house, and changed my name to Kate Elder. This was the beginning of my life as a dance hall girl and as a lady of the evening. Now, Madame Blanche introduced me briefly to a handsome young man by the name of Dr. Holliday, but I didn't pay any attention to him. I was involved with Silas. So I received a proposal of marriage from Silas, so we married. We had a son. But as life goes, both my husband and son died shortly thereafter. So it was back to the sporting life for me. I plied my trade in St. Louis and Wichita, where I first met Wyatt Earp, on to Dodge City and Fort Griffin, Texas, where I encountered once again that handsome Dr. Holliday who was dealing cards. I noticed he had a severe cough, So I asked, well, what's wrong? And he had consumption, which is another word for tuberculosis. And this is where I also earned the name of Big Nose Kate, not only for my prominent nose, but because I was notorious for spying on the other gamblers' cards and then signaling to Doc what they were holding. And it was while in Fort Griffin, Doc was playing cards with the local bully and caught him cheating. Doc warned him several times to no avail. The bully pulled a gun under the table, but before he could pull the trigger, Doc pulled a knife across the table, slashed him across his brisket. There was blood everywhere. This was self-defense, but he was arrested anyway and incarcerated in a nearby hotel room. You see, at that time, there was no jail. So as I spied an angry mob in the street, I knew I had to do something. So I set a shed on fire. And while all the men were attempting to put fire out, I went into the hotel as brave as a lion, and I confronted that officer guarding Doc. With a pistol in each hand, I disarmed him, and we escaped. After spending the night in the barn, we headed to Dodge City on stolen horses, of course. Our relationship was far from perfect. We parted and reunited many times. We even tried to settle into domestic life now and then, but you know how that goes. We would drink too much, we would fight, and one of us would leave. So it's now about 1880, and we pack up and join our longtime friends, the Earp brothers and their families. And we head down to Tombstone by way of Prescott, Arizona territory. Doc and I stayed in Prescott for 6 months. The Earps continued on to Tombstone. Here, Doc could enjoy his favorite pastimes, faro and poker. He even hung up his dental shingle. We were happy. He was making money, and for once we were living in style. But my mouth is dry. By the end of the year, our relationship became strained again. He wanted to head down to Tombstone, but I begged him to stay with me. Around March of 1881, he received a letter from Wyatt urging him to come down to Tombstone. There were so many problems with the cowboys and all the renegades down there. So I told him, if you're going to tie yourself to the Earps, go ahead. I'm going to Globe. So I went up to Globe. I purchased a small, modest hotel, and I went into business. But he was my man. After a while, I received a notice from him to join him in Tombstone, despite all the problems there. So I went. On October 26th, 1881, while standing at the window of Doc's hotel room at Fly's boarding house, I watched in horror as the gunfight of the OK Corral occurred. Doc survived.